Hello everybody, Sifu Jacob Bernand here with IronWireMartialArts. And today I would like to discuss with everybody weapons. And what does it mean to study a weapons-based martial arts, and why is it that this is almost always, or a massive part of the time, something that humans are gravitated towards. What is our infatuation with weapons? There's gun fanatics, there's knife fanatics, there's nuclear bombs, there's all sorts of different weapons. We, as a species, are a weapons-based species. Anybody listening ever seen the movie 2001 Space Odyssey? Well, if you haven't, and even if you have, let me just repeat it. All the monkeys were by this watering hole. And a neighboring tribe was fighting with another one. And they were losing. And so they found a bone or a club. I don't recall exactly. But they found a weapon. And once he learned how to wield the weapon, he started to destroy all the other neighboring tribe because he learned a tool. And a weapon is a tool. A massive tool. It could be known as, they've even called them equalizers. Combat equalizers. Or to give you an edge. No pun intended. To put you ahead, or to give you something that gives you the advantage. Okay, so if somebody's bigger and stronger, well, you got a knife. Or somebody's bigger and stronger, well, you might have a gun. Somebody tries to break in, you don't know how to defend yourself, oh, you got a weapon. Weapons. It's an infatuation with the human condition. And we, as a species, don't have claws. We don't have sharp teeth. We don't have the inherent defensive abilities as other creatures. So what we had was tools. And the most obvious tool is anything we could really pick up. A club, a stick, something sharp, a spear, projectiles, rocks, something to throw, traps, things found in nature. Okay, this is the most common thing, and we as a species are gravitated towards them. Did you know that 90% of attacks that are recorded by the police, 90% of attacks are either done with a club or a weapon. 90% of recorded police attacks are done by a weapon. What that means is that if you don't know how to defend yourself naturally, you're going to want to pick one up. If somebody's mad at you, what do? What do people do? They'll grab something to equalize everything. Or they'll throw something. Weapons. As a human species, we're gravitated towards weapons, and we're gravitated to using them with our strong hands. And that is an inherent thing. That's something that our ancestors did. It's almost an instinctual thing, if you will, to use tools as a means to defend ourselves. We have to use tools to defend ourselves, right? Again, we don't have sharp claws or natural camouflage-like abilities like other animals or aquatic animals or reptilian animals have. And so, knowing that we are instinctually a weapons-based creatures gives us an understanding of the realities of combat. See, I grew up in San Francisco on 9th and Market, in the inner city, in the Tenderloin. What I naturally see is people carrying knives around. What I naturally see is groups hanging out together. My environment is concrete, cars, not much room, and weapons-based martial arts. That is why I was attracted to more traditional ways, because I'm not going to be rolling around in gang violence or weapons-based violence. Try doing ground-based martial arts when everybody's got a knife with multiple attackers. Try that. See what happens. Try to roll around on the ground in the street gangs and people who got guns and knives. See how that works out. And get kicked in the head. So we've talked about martial arts in different environments or habitat-based martial arts to take something to face the realities of your situation, of where you live, urban or suburban, and the type of creatures that you're going to be facing in those environments, and the realities, the actual reality of facing and fighting somebody in those environments. And so, knowing this gives you an insight as to what to expect. When I was on the streets, hanging out in the streets as a younger man, in the Tenderloin, I know that if I was going to get into a confrontation, somebody's got a gun. I know for a fact somebody's got a blade. For a fact. Especially people who are not doing the right things. I mean, when somebody's breaking into your house, do you honestly think they're going to break in without a weapon or a means to protect themselves? The reality is, people, most individuals do not know martial arts. Most individuals will study martial arts for maybe 6 months. The reality is, most people do not study emphatically, or they're not infatuated with the martial arts. Most people just need to know the basic ways of defending themselves, and that's it, number one. Number two, if somebody's going to be involved in a crime, such as if you're getting robbed, if they're robbing somebody, if you're getting carjacked, if somebody's trying to steal your purse or your bag, or if somebody's trying to attack you or break into your house, the reality is they got a gun or a knife or a weapon, period. Only a fool would be breaking into somebody's house without a weapon. If somebody's going to jack you while you're walking out from the grocery store, you better believe they got a weapon and a friend. Most of the times when you're held up, mostly it's done with 2 or 3 people. Sometimes it's done by a person, but you're walking around a dark alleyway, usually 3 people, one person will corner you and the other 2 will just come up from behind you. Now you're cornered, you're trapped, you give away your wallet, your personal belongings, your cell phone, and call it a day. But again, what is the reality? The reality is this is done by weapons. It gives them the edge, the cutting edge. Right? And so, if you're looking for absolute practicality, you want to study a martial arts system that at least can address weapons, because it is in our inherent nature. Now, if you go back to the ancient ways, you're going to have halberds and spears and swords. It's what I studied, traditional martial arts. Then you have Filipino martial arts and Pencak Silat, which I've also studied, which is direct practical applications of guns and knives and the reality of living in those types of environments where people have to use a knife or a gun to survive. And that's something that I could relate to living on 9th and Market. Okay? So, you know, if you're in a suburban place where it's predominantly sports, you know, some people might just like to box to show their dominance. But understand, the reality is when most people get angry or scared or they feel like they got to defend themselves, the reality is instinctually somebody's going to be reaching for a weapon. Let's say you're sleeping late at night. I don't care. Don't even think about martial arts. Don't even think about a study. Just take this into consideration. You're sleeping at night. You hear a noise. Somebody might be downstairs. What's the first thing you're going to do? You're reach for a weapon. You're going to start thinking in your head, there's knives in the kitchen. Or sometimes I leave a bat by my bed. Or I might have a Glock in my drawer. It's the first thing you're going to do, isn't it? Interesting, isn't it? That is in your instinctual nature. So, remember that. If somebody's going to be doing something dirty, or if they're not doing what what fits into the normal realm of what we call business, such as drug dealing, hustling, snatching chains around people's necks, taking wallets, things like that, you better believe they got friends. You better believe they got a weapon. And you as a martial artist, if you are not conditioned or understand what's going on in those situations, you're going to freeze just like everybody else. So reality-based training, people. Even if you're studying the ancient ways of martial arts, you have to be able to look at the realities. That this world isn't always a pleasant place. You have to look at the realities of some people are doing this as a necessity. You got to look at the realities of how and what you are prepared to do. What are you prepared to do? Okay, when I was managing the security team, it was called the Wheel of Force. And I'm sure police officers do the same thing. The Wheel of Force. You don't, somebody doesn't try to throw a punch at you and you stab them. That is taking things to the utmost extreme. You're supposed to go just a little bit above this. Somebody punches you, you can take them to the ground and incapacitate them. Okay, or it's self-defense. You don't automatically go to the way extreme. But the funny thing is about that is that that would imply when that somebody has some type of conditioning to be able to control a combative situation, because you're never really in control. You could have training which gives you the ability to create the conditions necessary to create a new scenario, but don't think that you can control a chaotic situation. You can create different conditions, and with different abilities, you can create desired results. And you're able to influence the situation. Okay, but somebody trying to break into your house, I know that you're going to try to prevent that at all possible costs, but thinking that you're able to control whether somebody does something crazy or not, that's silly. You can't. Sometimes people are desperate and they're going to do what they got to do. And if that ever falls upon, or sometimes people are just in a pissy mood. There's some dudes, I remember I'd walk down the street and there's some dudes who either they're on drugs and going wacko, or there's just some dudes who are pissed and trying to take it out on somebody else. And you got to know what you're going to do or how you're going to act around it. If you can see it ahead of you, you go around the situation, you ignore it. But when confronted with it, you got to know what to do. The first time I was jumped by 6 gang members. And somebody had me in a headlock and they almost beat me to death. And I just screamed for them to stop. And then eventually they did. But they could have killed me. And I was alone, locked in the bathroom. And they broke my nose. And the next day, this gang member shows up, shows a gun to my friend. And he goes, next time I see your friend, I got something for him. And I froze. I didn't fight back. And I was talking to somebody else, and they were telling me the first time they got jumped, they froze too. And then he said something to me. He goes, the next time it happens, I'm going to fight back. And that's exactly right. That's what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to give up. It's a weird thing. But I realized at that point, I got to stop hanging around certain people, certain environments, and I got to start learning martial arts and become a better human being. And that's what happened. So I took a bad situation and I turned it into a way to become a positive force to myself and to this world. However, understand the realities that exist out there and what people do, and understand inherently, again, that it is in our nature. And if you can understand that, you'll better be prepared to face what's out there. So no matter what martial art you're studying, I always talk about my three golden practices. I have forms, drills, and sparring. Okay, but you also got to run reality-based simulations, and you also got to, no matter what you're studying, ancient or modern, you got to be able to face what's out there right now. Okay, and if we can give our students or even ourselves the ability to act in times of great danger, then we're in good shape, or at least we're doing a real service to ourselves and those who learn from us. So with that being said, please take this very, very serious topic into consideration. Think about what I said. Add it into your classroom. Think about reality-based simulations. Think about the reality of knife work, because even in Pencak Silat, which I study, in Filipino martial arts, which specialize in knife, in blades, in stick fighting, which is the most natural things, which I'd say the most reality-based martial arts for what's out there in the world today is Filipino and Indonesian systems. Even those you need to look at, okay? Because just because you learn a couple drills doesn't mean that you got the attitude and the ability, okay? Take that into consideration and know what you're willing to do. Know that this is in our nature and train for it. Simulated reality-based training. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Sifu Jake Bernan with Iron Wire Martial Arts.